Welcome back, family. Welcome back to the Fire Alarm Insider. And today we're going to be talking about something every real technician learns sooner or later, and that's the inspections. Really, the inspection is the real test of a good system. Not when you install it, not the punch list you got to go to make things work, not even the first time you turn your panel on. The inspection is where the truth shows up because on inspection day, the system is either ready or it's not. And you should not be requesting a final inspection if your system is not 100% ready. There is no negotiation with the devices, the wiring, the programming, the functionality, and also the signals being sent to the central station. So let me break this down clearly so you can understand. Let me say first that inspections is not about the inspector. It's about the actual system because inspections reveal everything you did wrong, everything you did right. If you may have a wire that's frayed or if you may have a wire that you pulled too tightly through a box and you just do some tape around it, all of those things come into play when it comes to installing your fire alarm system. They expose if you have the proper wiring, if you use circuits that are clean, supervised, label, if they're landed right. All of that shows, especially if you have reverse polarity. Nothing is going to work if your wires are reversed, or if you put the wrong voltage on the wrong circuit, you could actually blow out a CPU, modules, whatever. You could have some damages along the line that you do not want to replace or have to pay for. So if you use twisted wires, you mislabel in zones, or if you skip the end of line, the panel will show because it's going to have an open circuit, you're going to have a short, you're going to have some type of indication showing you that this circuit is not clear. You also need correct device placement. Smoke placement, spacing, pull station height, visibility, and sound coverage all plays a part when you're installing the input and output devices of your fire alarm system. If devices are improperly installed, if devices are wrong, the inspectors is not going to have to guess. The plan in the field will contradict each other immediately. So if they're looking at the plans, the device needs to be exactly in that location in which the plans indicate. You also must make sure when you install all of these devices or once the installer install all of these devices, if you have a secondary programmer or somebody else that's coming in with a laptop to program it, you want to make sure they understand the sequence of operation, what function is supposed to happen per device. So this is a big one. If your logic looks lazy, your verification is off, or if your sequence don't match, you'll find out right away in front of everybody. So you want to make sure that if there's a smoke detector in the elevator lobby, it's going to recall that elevator. If you have alternate recall, make sure that alternate recall is working. Ensure that the elevator company ties in their part. Don't just supply the relay and say my job is done, it activates. No, make sure that it's fully tied in all the way to the end device. And you also want to make sure you have a clean installation. This is by far very important. A neat panel, tidy termination, secure devices, and proper supports shows that you actually care about what you're doing because this is a system that saves lives. So you don't want to install anything improperly. So a clean install does not guarantee you're going to pass, but messy work also guarantees you're going to fail. So just take pride in what you're doing. And also make sure you have clear documentation. If your as-built, paperwork, riser, A433, if anything is off on the paperwork, you're going to have to resubmit the paperwork. Everything has to match accordingly, and everything has to be lined up, especially on your as-built riser diagram. You're going to need the stamp from the engineer. If you're the installer who has a stamp, you're also going to need that secondary stamp, or the electrician is going to have to stamp it. But you're going to need the engineer to either stamp the functionality statement and also stamp the drawing. So there's a couple ways you can do that. If the engineer stamps just the drawings, then you're going to need the installer to stamp the functionality statement. However, if the engineer just stamps the functionality statement, then that would make the riser diagram valid. So definitely, inspections will expose shortcuts instantly. So if something is not working, just delay the inspection. Just be honest, we still having some work to do because we got to fix a ground or whatever the case may be. Just make sure you're 100% ready when it's come time to take that fire alarm inspection. Now, let's talk about why passing matters, and this is way beyond pride. Passing inspection saves you money. A failed inspection means you have to either add new devices, relocate devices, or you have to just make return trip. What that means is that's more money in material, more money in equipment, more money in labor, more money in everything along the way. So you don't want to you don't want to spend more money. You want to make sure that you budget your jobs correctly and accordingly, and you stay within budget or less. It also saves times. A failed delay can delay a tenant moving in. A delayed occupancy means delayed payment. No building owner wants to be delayed when they're shelling out millions of dollars to get this building constructed, and now they have to wait because the fire alarm system didn't pass, and all these people that they expected to move in to pay rent within 30 days, it's not going to happen. You don't want to do that. This also builds reputation. The fastest way to become the contractor that people trust is to pass inspections consistently. We don't pass all of our inspections on the first time because we can't guarantee that. Because when the inspector come out, see, my thing is when the plan examiner is looking at the drawings, he is sitting at a desk looking at a piece of paper. However, when the field inspector, which is a totally different person, comes out and actually see what the environment is, he will then make determinations or if he wants to add any new devices or not at that particular time. But most times we usually have everything covered if we just give the client or that building or that specific application within that building the minimum qualifications. This also protects the clients. Clients don't just want a system. They want a building that they can legally operate safe and intact so they don't have to worry about it. If something happened, the alarm will go off. It'll let the central station know. Central station will let the fire department know so they can get there and minimize the damages that may be in that building. It also ensures lives. At the end of the day, this is not paperwork. This is not about people living, working, sleeping inside that building. A passing system means if something goes wrong, the building has a real defense. So remember, passing an inspection is not a flex. So you could say you pass 100,000 inspections. That don't mean anything. That is your actual duty and responsibility to pass these inspections. So let me give you the mindset of an inspection readiness professional installed fire alarm system. I don't want you to wait to inspection day to behave like someone who don't care about the inspection. An inspection ready system means that you go to work every day with the discipline that you're going to do whatever it is that you need to do 110%, so that way you installed this device correctly, you ran this wire correctly, you terminated these screws correctly. Whatever the philosophy is, you need to make sure that you do clean and safe and professional work each and every day. Now, my philosophy is very simple. We test the system early. If the building is half done, we can only test what we install. We don't let problems pile up until the end. So say like we have a punch list, we usually handle that punch list the next day, that day, or while we're actually working. So that way we don't have a PDF sheet of 100 punch lists to do at the end of the project. We catch up along we go. It's like being in the kitchen cooking. We clean up as we cook. So we catch our own mistakes. So the best techs that I know, they try to induce failure into the system before the inspector even shows up. So that way they could correct those failures, so that way they never show up on the system ever. And you also must respect the process. The process isn't there to annoy you. It's there to make sure you do what you need to do on a daily basis. It's like a framework. It's a structure. It's what you need to do to make this system work. And you must live in the code. If you avoid the code, your inspection becomes very stressful. But if you live in the code, your inspection becomes confirmation, because you can't never deviate from something that you're not supposed to do. So remember, inspection-ready system is not a moment. It's definitely a lifestyle that you and your company have to provide. Let me give you a really quick example of a real-world situation. Once we install a complete fire alarm system, and the last thing we really do is actually connect the central station or install the central station communicator. So once we get the central station in, and the system is not really active with the central station, not as of yet, because we don't have a signed agreement, but we may have a signed agreement, but we just keep the system inactive until inspection. Either way, we will make sure that we test each and every system. Every pull station should open the doors. So if we have 20 pull stations, I may want to test each pull station individually 20 specific times to see that every pull station will release the doors. I'm not going to assume that each one will release the doors once it's in alarm, even with the fan shutdown. So whatever output function that we have, unfortunately, each and every one of these devices have to be verified, even though you, as the programmer, if you put it in that list or if you give it that label, it's going to work. or based off experience. But you don't want to just know off a feeling. You want to know because you physically tested it. So just do the due diligence, physically test it, go through it 100%. So when the inspector get there, confidently that when he goes through what he needs to go through, he or she, because especially when a person goes through something and they don't see any issues, they don't scrutinize it too much. They really, the inspection flows, it goes a lot faster, and they may not even test everything. So as long as they feel comfortable and confident within your system and it's working, each and every device is doing what it's supposed to do, everything is working, you're going to have a very smooth inspection. So here's the lesson I want you to take home. The inspector will judge your work before the world will ever see it. Before the tenants walk in, before the owner celebrates, before the building gets even its certificate of occupancy. Inspection is the most important moment in your system that gets introduced to the reality once the building or the space or the whatever actually open. So if your work is clear, disciplined, and code compliant, you will never fear inspection. You will definitely welcome it with open arms. So if you enjoyed this episode of Why Inspectors Are the Test of a Real Good System, I want you to subscribe to the Fire Alarm Insider, whether you're listening to this at Apple, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're picking up this information at. I want you to subscribe from real fire alarm lessons, from real experience, all right? I'm Anthony, the fire alarm expert, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Peace. Remember, anybody can install a system, but the inspection will always reveal the truth about who built it. I'll catch you tomorrow. So stay sharp, stay ready. Fire alarm expert out. Peace.